Welcome to Seeker Challenge Daily Reading with She the Seeker Ministries, where we equip women to sit at the feet of Jesus. We are so excited about this Seeker Challenge as we invite you to allow the Lord's Word to illuminate your heart. So right now, I invite you to open your Bibles or simply listen, and I pray that He speaks to you through His Word. Here's today's reading.
Today's reading will come from the book of Leviticus, chapter 11 through 13, the New Living Translation. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Of all the land animals, these are the ones you may use for food. You may eat any animal that has completely split hooves and choose the cud. You may not, however, eat the following animals that have split hooves or that chew the cud, but not both. The camel chews the cud, but does not have split wolves, so it is ceremonially unclean for you. The hooks chews the cud, but does not have split hooves, so it is unclean. The hare chews the cud, but does not have split hooves, so it is unclean. The pig has evenly split hooves, but does not chew the cud, so it is unclean. You may not eat the meat of these animals, or even touch their carcasses. They are ceremonial unclean for you. Of all the marine animals, these are the ones you may eat for food. You may eat anything from the water if it has both fins and scales, whether taken from salt water or from streams. But you must never eat animals from the sea or from the rivers that do not have both fins and scales. They are distasteful to you. This applies both to little creatures that live in the shallow water and to all the creatures that live in deep water. They will always be distasteful to you. You must never eat their meat or even touch their dead bodies. Any marine animal that does not have both fins and scales is distasteful to you. These are the birds that are distasteful to you. You must never eat them. The griff vulture, the beard vulture, the black vulture, the kite falcons of all kinds, ravens of all kinds, the eagle owl, the short-eared owl, the seagull, hawk of all kinds, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the barn owl, the desert owl, the Egyptian vulture, the stork, herons of all kinds, the hoop, and the bat. You must not eat winged insects that walk along the ground. They are distasteful to you. You may, however, eat winged insects that walk along the ground and have jointed legs so they can jump. The insects you are permitted to eat include all kinds of luscas, bald luscas, crickets, and grasshoppers. All other winged insects that walk along the ground are distasteful to you. The following creatures will make you ceremonially unclean. If any of you touch these carcasses, you will be defiled until evening. If you pick up their carcasses, you must wash your clothes. You will remain defiled until evening. Any animal that has split hooves that are not evenly divided or that does not chew the cud is unclean for you. If you touch the carcass of such of any animal, you will be defiled. Other animals that walk on all fours, those have paws, are unclean. If you touch the carcass of such any animal, you will be defiled until evening. If you pick up the carcass, you must wash your clothes, and you will remain defiled until evening. These animals are unclean for you. For the small animals that skirt along the ground, these are unclean for you. The mole rat, the rat, large lizards of all kinds, the gecko, the mountain lizard, the common lizard, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. All these small animals are unclean for you. If any of you touch the dead body of such any animal, you will be defiled until evening. If such any animal dies and falls on something, that object will be unclean. This is true. Whether the object is made of wool, whether the object is made of wood, cloth, leather, or burlap. Whatever is used, you must dip it in the water, and it will remain defiled until evening. After that, it will be ceremonially clean and may be used again. If such an animal falls into a clay pot, everything in the pot will be defiled, and the pot must be smashed. If the water from such a container spills on any food, the food will be defiled, and the beverage in such a container will be defiled. Any object on which the carcass of such an animal falls will be defiled. If it is an oven or hell, it must be destroyed, for it is defiled, and you must treat it accordingly. However, if the carcass of such an animal falls into a spring, the water will still be clean. But anyone who touches the carcass will be defiled. If the carcass falls on the seed grain to be planted in the field, the seed will be considered clean. But if the seed is wet, when the carcass falls on it, the seed will be defiled. If any animal you are permitted to eat dies, you touch it, you will be defiled until evening. If you eat any of its meat and carry away its carcass, you must wash your clothes, and you will remain defiled until evening. All small animals that skirt along the ground are distasteful, and you must never eat them. This includes all animals that slither around on their bellies, as well as their forelegs, and those with many feet. All such animals that skirt along the ground are distasteful, and you must never eat them. Do not defile yourself by touching them. You must not make yourself ceremonial unclean because of them. For I am the Lord your God. You must consecrate yourself and be holy, because I am holy. So do not defile yourself with any of these small animals that scurry along the ground, for I, the Lord, am the one who brought you up from the land of Egypt, that I may be your God. Therefore you must be holy, because I am holy. These are the instructions regarding land animals, birds, marine creatures, and animals that skirt along the ground. By these instructions, you will know what is clean and what is unclean, which animals may be eaten and which may not be eaten. Chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. If a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Just as she is unclean during her menstrual period, on the 8th day the boy's foreskins must be circumcised. After waiting 33 days, she will be purified from the bleeding of childbirth. During this time of purification, she must not touch anything that is set apart as holy, and she must not enter the sanctuary until her time of purification is over. If a woman gives birth to a daughter, she will be ceremonially unclean for 2 weeks, just as she is unclean during her menstrual period. After 66 days, she will be purified from the bleeding of childbirth. When the time of purification is completed for either a son or a daughter, the woman must bring a 1 year old lamb for a burnt offering and a young pigeon or turtle dove for purification offering. She must bring her offering to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will then present them to the Lord to purify her. Then she will be ceremonial clean again after bleeding at childbirth. These are the instructions for a woman after the birth of a son or daughter. If a woman cannot afford to bring a lamb, she must bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. One will be for the burnt offering and the other one for purification offering. The priest will sanctify them to purify her, and she will be ceremonial clean. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, if anyone has a swelling or a rash or discolored skin that might develop into a serious skin disease, that person must be brought to Aaron, the priest, or to one of his sons. The priest will examine the affected area of the skin. If the hair in the affected area has turned white and the problem appears to be more than skin deep, it is a serious skin disease. And the priest who examines must pronounce the person ceremonial unclean. But if the affected area of the skin is only a white discoloration and does not appear to be more than skin deep, if the hair on the spot has not turned white, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has not changed and the problem has not spread it on the skin, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has faded and has not spread, the priest will pronounce the person ceremonial clean. It was only a rash. The person's clothing must be washed, and the person will be ceremonial clean. But if the rash continues to spread after the person has been examined by the priest and has been pronounced clean, the infected person must return to the exam again. If the priest finds that the rash has spread, he must pronounce the person ceremonial unclean, for it is indeed a skin disease. Anyone who develops a serious skin disease must go to the priest for an examination. If the priest finds a white swelling on the skin and some on hair on the spot has turned white, and there is an open sore in the affected area, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest must pronounce the person ceremonial unclean. In such cases, the person need not be quarantined, for it is obvious that the skin is defiled by the disease. Now, suppose the disease has spread all over this person's skin, covering the body from head to toe. When the priest examines the infected person and finds that the disease covers the entire body, he will pronounce the person ceremonial clean. Since the skin has turned completely white, the person is clean. But if any open sores appear, the infected person will be pronounced ceremonial unclean. The priest must take his pronouncement as soon as he sees an open sore, since open sores indicate the presence of skin disease. However, if the open sore heals and turns white like the rest of the skin, the person must return to the priest for another examination. If the affected areas have indeed turned white, The priest will pronounce the person ceremonial clean by declaring, "You are clean." But if the area grows no longer and does not spread, it is merely the scar from the boil, and the priest will pronounce the person ceremonial clean. If anyone has suffered a burn on the skin and the burn area changes color, becoming either reddish white or shiny white, the priest must examine it. If he finds that the hair in the affected area has turned white and the problem appears to be more skin deep, a skin disease has broken out to the burn. The priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean, for it is clearly a skin disease. But if the priest examines it and there's no white hair in the spot and it's no deeper than the skin but has faded, the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And the priest shall examine him the seventh day. If it is spreading in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the case of leprous disease. But if the spot remains in one place and does not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the scar of the burn. When a man or woman has a disease on the head or the beard, the priest shall examine the disease. And if it appears deeper than the skin, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is an itching, a leprous disease of the head or the beard. And if the priest examines the itching disease, and it appears no deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up the person with the itching disease for 7 days. And on the seventh day, the priest shall examine the disease. If the itching has not spread it, and there is in it no yellow hair, and the itch appears to be no deeper than the skin, then he shall shave himself, but the itch he shall not shave. The priest shall shut up the person with the itching disease for another 7 days. And on the seventh day, the priest shall examine the itch, and if the itch has not spread in the skin, and it appears to be no deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. And he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the itch spreads in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall examine him, and if the itch has spread in the skin, the priest need not seek for the yellow hair. He is unclean. But if in his eyes the itch is unchanged and the black hair has grown in it, the itch is healed and he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. When a man or a woman has spots on the skin of the body, white spots, the priest shall look, and if the spots on the skin of the body are of a dull white, it is leukoderma that has broken out in the skin. He is clean. If a man's hair falls out from his head, he is bald. He is clean. And if a man's hair falls out from his forehead, he has baldness of the forehead. He is clean. But if there is on the bald head or the bald forehead a reddish white disease area, it is leprous disease breaking out on his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall examine him, and if the disease swelling is reddish white on his bald head or on his bald forehead, like the appearance of the leprous disease in the skin of the body, he is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest must pronounce him unclean. His disease on his head. The leprous person who has the disease shall wear torn clothes, and let the hair of his head hang loose. And he shall cover his upper lip and cry out, unclean, unclean. He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. When there is a case of leprous disease in a garment, whether a wool or a linen garment, in raft or woof of linen or wool, or in a skin or anything made of skin, if the disease is greenish or reddish in the garment, or in the skin, or in the wrap, or the woof, or in any article made of skin, in a case of leprous disease, it shall be shown to the priest, and the priest shall examine the disease and shut up that which has the disease for 7 days. Then he shall examine the disease on the 7th day. If the disease has spread it in the garment, in the wrap, or the woof, or in the skin, whatever be the use of the skin, the disease is a persistent leprous disease. It is unclean, and he shall burn the garment, or wrap, or woof, the wool of the linen, or any article made of skin that is diseased, for it is a persistent leprous disease. It shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest examines, and if the disease has not spread in the garment, in the warp, or the woof, or in any article made of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing in which is the disease, and he shall shut it up for another 7 days. And the priest shall examine the diseased thing after it has been washed. And if the appearance of the diseased area has not changed, though the disease has not spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it in the fire, whether the rot is on the back or the front. But if the priest examines, and if the diseased area has faded after it has been washed, he shall tear it out of the garment, or the skin, or the warp, or the woof. Then if it appears again in the garment, in the warp, or woof, or in any article made of skin, it is spreading. You shall burn with fire whatever has the disease. But the garment, or the warp, or the woof, or any article made of skin from the disease departs when you have washed it, shall then be washed a second time and be clean. This is the law of a case of leprous disease in a garment, or wool, or linen, either in the warp or the wool, or in any article made of skin, to determine whether it is clean or unclean.
Let's reflect on these questions together as we discover what the Holy Spirit may be saying through His Word. Number 1, what words, phrases, or things stood out to you? Number 2, what did you notice about God's character, His love, or His ways? And number 3, is there something you currently believe about God, yourself, or others that needs to change based on the truth you heard? I invite you to check out the Bible reading plan through the link. And then remember, until next time, keep sitting at the feet of Jesus and join us as we stay connected to Him together.